Hey Pinball fans, let's take a look at the installation for the Mechagodzilla. Let's start right now with what comes in the kit. First of all, you'll have the mecha figure, of course, ready to install on your machine. You'll have some Ethernet cables, a power cable, 2 magnet interface cables, 3 node board PCBs, and 1 controller PCB. As well, we're including a very small hex key wrench that you can use if you need to adjust the head on the Mechagodzilla, and we'll cover that in a later video. Pointing out a few things here. If you have the Pro model, you're going to have 1 less node interface board and 1 less Ethernet cable. So for the Premium and LE installation, there'll be 4 Ethernet cables and 3 node boards, and then 1 less of each of those if you're doing the Pro installation. If you look on these node boards, see if we can get in focus here. There's a little white rectangle there that says CN5, and there's one over here right there that says node 10. So that's how you identify each of these boards. They're gonna, of course, go to the node board that they're saying. So this will go to node 10, and we'll point that out in the video. And then also the Ethernet cable that connects this node board to the controller has a similarly labeled port here, node 10. Also on this board you'll have the power connector, this blue one here. Next to that is a status light, and next to that is a reset button, and we'll cover those in future video. Here is the Mechagodzilla plug itself, and then there are 2 magnet connectors there, and they're labeled. It's small, but you can see it there hopefully. One of them is M mag and one of them is G mag. And that stands for Mecha and Godzilla. There we go. And then these 2 cables, which interface with the magnets, are different. One of them has 3 pins, one of them has 2 pins, so you can't mix those up. However, the other end can get mixed up, and it's important that it goes to the proper one if you want the Mechagodzilla to function properly. So again, we'll cover that in a future video. But that's what's included with the kit, and we'll move on now to installation. Before we get started on the installation, take a look at your figure here, and I'm going to point out just a few things that you need to be aware of. One of them is, don't put any pressure on these hands. If you put your figure upside down and shove it into the table, it's very possible that you can break the connection in these hands. It's sturdy, but it's not meant to be pushed into the table or used it to grab or twist or anything like that. So be very careful of those. Of course, I would say the same thing with the head. It's very sturdy, it's attached well, but I wouldn't use the head to grab the figure, just grab it by the body. Of course, you would have reversed the procedure to get your bracket installed and your coil back installed. And then what you're going to want to do is feed both the magnet wire and the Mechagodzilla wire through this hole in the bracket. So they're going down through here, which will match up with the hole that's in the playfield. So let's first identify the node boards in the game. Up here at the top is node 8. This blue board right here is node 8. In the middle of the playfield is node 9, same looking blue board. And then down here by the, this is the building contraption here, this board down here is node 10. Okay, so those are identified for installing the node interface boards that we have to install now. So let's look at installing one of those. First, we'll start off with the most difficult one, and that's this board that goes right in the middle of the playfield on node 9. And so what we're going to need to do is unplug these 3 plugs over here. It's the orange plug and the 2 plugs above it, and then this is going to go right in place of those plugs. You have to be very careful when installing this. You need to line it up perfectly, make sure each of the pins are matching up with the holes in these black connectors, and don't push it until you're sure everything is lined up. Get it lined up and then just give it some pressure, and it will go in as far as it needs to go in, and it will be held in place by the tension on those plugs. But don't think you have to push it all the way down to be flush with the board. It won't go all the way down, but it will be in probably about, I would say, 90% of the way there. Okay, so remove those plugs, line this guy up, and the Ethernet plugs go pointing towards the middle of the board, and then just put it gently onto those pins, make sure everything's lined up, and give it a nice press and send it home into those plugs. And then you'll plug these connectors back in. They only go into one of the connectors on the board, so you can't mix those up. If you take a look at this board that I'm looking at here, this is the Node 8 board, and right in the center of the screen here on that green board is a label that says CN12. That's identifying which plug this goes on each board. Each board has those labels, and if you look on your Node board itself, let's see if we can get it zoomed in here, you can see there's CN11 that I'm looking at with the green wires. So CN12 is just to the right of that with the orange plug, and similarly on the other two or one node boards that you have, it will have both the node board identifier and the connector identifier. So that is where the Node 8 board goes to replace that orange plug there. Same, the Ethernet plug goes towards the inside of the board. And then looking down here, you'll have a very similar single port connector there for node board 10. And again, the Ethernet plug goes facing into the board itself. After you have all those node boards installed, we'll look at installing the main controller. So the main control board is going to go on the bottom of this turntable mechanism. Right here are two of the 5 screws that hold this contraption on, and that's where the main controller board connects to. So the main controller board just gets set right down in here and will be put on with those 2 original screws that you removed from that contraption. And my suggestion is wait to install this board completely until all the wires are connected. It's much easier to see the labels and get the wires connected, and then put the board in here and screw it down. Okay, so we'll look at connecting those wires now. If you have the premium or LE version of the Mechagodzilla figure, you're going to have 3 different node boards, and there'll be 4 different Ethernet plugs. There'll be 1 long Ethernet cable and 3 short Ethernet cables. The long Ethernet cable goes to your Node 8 board up at the top here. And you can see I have it plugged in, and I've routed it down through the bundle of wires all the way down, and it's going to end up over here to plug into the controller board. So same situation with the other cables. Here, for example, is the Node 10 cable. This will be a short cable. You only have 3 short cables left now. And again, I routed it up here, zip tied it to this connector here, and it will get zip tied to the bundles of wire to eventually bring the plug over here. Okay, so you'll do that with this Node 9 board as well. There'll be 2 cables there, again, 2 short cables, and you'll want to be able to identify which cable is which, so we know which connector it goes to. I would then plug those cables into the main controller board, again matching up which node it's coming from, and whether it's Node 9.1 or 9.2, and you'll plug those Ethernet cables in here, and then we'll connect the Mechagodzilla plug right into that plug there, the Godzilla magnet and the Mechagodzilla magnet plugs there. Let's look at installing those. The Godzilla magnet is sitting right here on the left side of the playfield, and out of that comes a black cable with 3 pins. And so of course you'll use the 3-pin interface cable for the magnet that we give you. Just undo this connector here and place our pass-through connector in between those 2, plug it back in, and you'll have now this end that will plug into the controller board. Again, make sure it's in the Godzilla magnet or G-Mag port, and then you'll also want to do the Mechagodzilla magnet, and that is one of the wires that comes down through the playfield, through this hole here I believe, and there is a orange-gray cable right here. That is a 2-pin cable which goes to the Mechagodzilla magnet. And again, you'll just put our interface cable in between the 2 ends of that plug, and you'll have the small end of that connector here, which will plug into the Mechagodzilla port or M-Mag port on the controller board. So once you have all those cables installed, nicely routed, zip tied in place, plugged into the controller board, then you'll take the controller board and screw it right into those 2 existing holes. If your holes I've unscrewed and screwed mine in several times. If your holes start getting hollowed out and they don't hold the screws so well, take a toothpick, shove it in the hole, break it off, and then you'll have a nice extra piece of wood there for it to grip onto and hold the screws in. So once all of that's installed, we've completed the under playfield installation. Now we can look at the power cord installation. I guess that's still under the playfield, but we'll do the power cord installation now. So open up your back box, and power distribution board is right here. You can see my red and black wires for our power plug go right here into the empty spot that you'll have here, or you may have something plugged in there already, in which case you're going to need a splitter you can pick up from Pinball Life. They're pretty inexpensive, and that will give you several plugs to plug in modifications to. So plug that plug in there. It only goes one direction. It matches up with the locking tab that's on the connector in there, and then you're going to route this wire across, over, and down, and then you'll run that wire again with all the bundle of wires down here, and just follow that all the way up to the playfield. So that wire would have come up this bundle of wires here, again zip tied in place, and then you'll have the white connector, larger connector, which plugs into the blue port on your controller board. This blue port right there can only go one direction, and it locks in place. Obviously, if you already installed the board, you can just plug it in there. If you haven't installed the board yet, plug it in, install the board, and then we'll be done with this side of the installation. Alright, you can go ahead and turn the game on now and let it boot up. And when it's all done with its startup sequence here, you can take a look at all the lights that are on those Ethernet ports. And each port should have a green light and a yellow light, both on the side and on this side. Green shows that the node board is giving power to the little daughter board that we added on, and yellow shows that the Ethernet link is correct. So all those boards should have green and yellow lights on them. Also on the board, there are two lights to look at. The red one that you're seeing right now is just a power light to let you know that the board's getting power correctly, and the green light is a diagnostics light. Green means good, red means bad. If red is flashing or there's a purple light or something like that, we can help you diagnose that just by you telling us what the light's doing, and then we can point out what needs to be fixed or changed or whatever. Otherwise, the Mechagodzilla is installed and should be reacting to stuff in your game. Have fun.